By going through the monk mode process, you will discover the only way to become successful in your life without relying on willpower. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the two dimensions of what I mean by this so that you can implement them and so that you can create consistent progress in your life without relying on the hustle, without relying on the grind, without relying on willpower all the time. Now, if you have been following this channel for a while, you know that the monk mode challenge is starting very, very soon. So if you want to join us inside a community and get access to a step-by-step structured approach towards creating self-mastery in your life, then open up a new tab in your browser window, go to monkmodechallenge.com to learn more about that. Okay, now willpower is something that is known as the queen of all virtues, because the more willpower that we have, the more accelerated progress we make in every area of our life. Now you're like, yo, you just said I can be successful without relying on willpower. So I'm getting to that, okay? But it's very important to understand that willpower is a limited resource, right? We already know this, that we have a limited amount of willpower. So why is it that some people are able to create tremendous amounts of progress in every area of their life compared to some people who just struggle to even crawl out of bed in the morning, right? If willpower is a limited resource, then we can understand it's actually like a muscle, right? And it's also important to understand that the most successful people in the world that I've studied personally, okay, whether it's in the area of business, of sports, of even relationships, of contribution, of spirituality, the most disciplined and successful people actually rely on their willpower the least. Okay, now this might sound a bit counterintuitive, but I'm going to give you an example from my own life. Okay, so for example, a couple of months ago, I think it was in the start of this year, around February, I decided that I'm not gonna eat sugar, refined sugar anymore. Okay, so I'm making this decision, and I made this decision because before that point, I would just binge on sugar so much that I would get bloated, and then I would get bloated. I couldn't do any work, and this was a recurring cycle for me to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna eat like once a week, and then that didn't work either. I'm just gonna eat like one bite after a meal because I would crave the sugar afterwards, but that didn't work either. Okay, but when I made the decision to let go of refined sugar, right, I'm just not gonna eat sugar anymore, right? That was actually easier for me than to eat a bite of sugar per day. Now, what do I mean by this? Okay, it's very important that you grasp this right now. It takes more willpower to do one thing, right? It takes more willpower to take a bite of sugar than it does to just say no to sugar completely. Okay, so this is something that I experienced, because anytime I would be like, yeah, I'm taking one bite of sugar, then that would actually cause me to crave even more of it. And when I would crave more of it is when I would eat more of it, even though I said that I wasn't going to. On the flip side, when I made the decision that I'm just not going to eat sugar anymore, refined sugar, then it was no longer requiring my willpower because that decision was made once. Okay, so important that you consider this, right? Like a vegetarian, maybe it's an ethical decision for him, right? It's not going to be something that is requiring willpower from him because it's a decision that is made, right? There's no middle ground. It's like that decision is made. Therefore, it actually does not require willpower to follow through with it. Okay, that's the first dimension. If there is a habit, a behavior, an activity that you are trying to let go of, think about how you can make a decision that actually allows you to experience the positive benefits without relying on willpower. So for example, if you are addicted to sugar, or if you are addicted to smoking cigarettes, or if you are addicted to drinking booze, right? The best way to let go of that is simply not to buy any, to simply not keep any around in your house. Okay, it's way easier to resist eating chocolate when there is no chocolate in your house. On the flip side, if there's chocolate lying around in your house and you're like, I'm not gonna eat sugar, I'm not gonna eat sugar, I'm not gonna eat sugar, you use up all your willpower and you're just using it up in terms of resisting it rather than just not even facing that temptation because it's not in your environment, right? Think about, first and foremost, how can you make the decision that makes the requirement for willpower obsolete? And secondly, think about how you can create and engineer your environment so that you don't have the experience of temptation. Okay, that's the first dimension of this, so that you can actually stop relying on willpower and start focusing on what it is that you truly value and make that decision, so that willpower is no longer a requirement. Okay, now the second dimension is extremely important, and this is what all successful high achievers have in common, and that is, okay, I just said you don't need to use willpower, but you do need to use willpower, but you do not need to rely on willpower. Okay, the most successful high performers that I've studied, they use their willpower to install habits that function on autopilot. Okay, by their very definition, habits are an automatic behavior that does not require much thought. Okay, repeatedly and consistently without relying on willpower. So think about how you can install the habits that allow you to move towards success in your life, right? Whatever your definition of success is, on autopilot without relying on willpower. Because by their very definition, the habits do not require willpower. Okay, now there's 3 stages to developing a habit, like I learned from Robin Sharma. He says that all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and glorious at the end. Okay, any one of us that are attempting to make changes, positive changes in our life by creating and developing empowering habits and letting go of habits that no longer serve us, no one said it was going to be easy, right? I don't know why we have this expectation, but once we can realize that it is going to be hard, that is when we can set ourselves up for success rather than misalignment in our expectations. Okay, so the first step of any habit, right, it's going to be destruction, because you are in the process of destroying this older version of yourself. You are letting go of this older version of yourself that does not serve you. You are breaking it down, right? Think about when you're renovating a house, right? There's a very old house, you want to renovate it, you want to create a new structure on top of it, so you break it down, right? You break it down, and that really sets us up for actually creating that change in our life. Okay, so there is no change without the destruction. And once we can accept that it will be hard, once we can accept that we're going to be destroying our old self and creating the space for this new self to be born, right? That is when we can actually create successful habit change in our life. Now, the second step is confusion, right? All change is messy in the middle. So again, when you're renovating the house, there might be all these blocks and all this concrete on one side and all this mash and all this chaos. And that is a normal part of the process as well. Okay, that is the metamorphosis that is happening right now in the process. And once you can learn to identify that this is a natural part of the process, that is when you can keep on going past this point as well. Okay, and the third stage is integration, whereby the habit becomes part of who you are, right? It's just a natural expression of who you are. It becomes harder for you not to do the habit than it is to do the habit. It takes more willpower for you not to do the habit than it does for you to do the habit. That is what we call the state of automaticity, right? So once we can understand and have this awareness of what these 3 steps are in actually creating those empowering habits, then anytime that we fall off, anytime that we feel that grief, anytime we experience that difficulty and that toughness, then we can realize which stage we're in, and we can continue taking that action regardless of how we feel, because we have that bigger vision in our mind. And then once we have installed that habit, then it no longer requires willpower, and then we can go and allocate that willpower into installing new habits that serve us in our highest expression. Okay, so the only way to build success without relying on willpower is to use that willpower to install habits that function on autopilot without willpower in the long run. Okay, and to echo the wisdom of Aristotle, we do not act rightly. No, he said that excellence is in, messing up the quote over here, but he said that excellence is an art won through training and habituation. We do not act rightly because we have virtue and excellence, but rather we have those because we have acted rightly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit, right? How can you become the type of person that has the habit of doing the right thing over the easy thing consistently, right? That is when it does not require willpower. That is when you are on the smooth sail towards creating a life that you love, that is in alignment with your personal definition of success. Okay, so if you want to join a structured, step-by-step, systematic approach towards getting that clarity in your life and developing that certainty in your life, then like I mentioned at the start of this video, the Monk Mode Challenge is going live very, very soon. So you can open up a tab in your browser window, go to monkmodechallenge.com to learn more about that. And to mention a side note about Black Friday, okay? A lot of people are like, are you doing Black Friday for Monk Mode? No, there's no Black Friday. This is un-Black Friday, okay? Which means that though the price will be exactly the same, just to do honor and justice to the people that bought into the system before at this price, we will be donating 50% of the proceeds that come in form of revenue towards Team Trees, okay? teamtrees.org, they're planting trees for $1 each. So we're gonna donate 50% of the revenue towards that. So rather than taking off the price, we're gonna increase our giving capacity over there, okay? So just a quick announcement over there, and whether you decide to join or not, understand that developing the habits that support your growth development towards success is the most important part of this whole journey, okay? Excellence is not an act, but a habit. So leave a comment below letting me know your #1 takeaway in this video. Click the like button if you like it. Subscribe if you have not already. With all that being said, this has been Mo, and I'll see you in the next one.